Shit. Welcome back to Boogie Chassis. Now that video was last night. I was on my way to meet the boys at Minitrucks and Milkshakes when the shop truck decided to throw a temper tantrum. And I had a beautiful plan all laid out to do some upgrades and get this raft of crap working better in the video you're watching right now. Now, the events of last night have got me thinking there's an issue with the coil. The truck died and just would not restart. Prior to that, it was chugging and running like crap again. And rather than go home, I just kept pressing on, figuring whatever's causing the problem is going to blow up, and then at least I'll know what it is. So I've run some initial diagnostics, talked with engineering. So today we're going to get after a few things. First is the ignition system, obviously. The braking problem I've been having. Finally getting a horn in the truck. We're going to talk wheels and offsets. And I'm going to tackle some minor maintenance issues. Now it's not all bad news, so strap in, Sally. Not long ago I hit 1,000 subscribers. I checked the mail and I got this. Now even though I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm still a little low on my watch hours. So do me a favor, go check out the back catalog and watch some of the older videos too. I would really appreciate it. Now as usual, I'm under a bit of a crunch. Creatures of the Night and Carlisle Truck are coming up. So I've definitely got to get that ignition issue figured out and get a bunch of other work done as well. So I might not get to that ride height sensor setup. Remember to delete this if I don't get to the ride height sensor setup. But first, we have a special guest in the shop today. Now as I've mentioned before, I'm no mechanic. So since Gary's gone, we got a new intern. This is Evan.
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Now Evan's a real mechanic. You may recognize him from past videos. He's also the Boogie Chassis engineering department. With the ignition problems I'm having, I'm definitely going to need his help. Evan also has a YouTube channel you should go check out. Now, when I first got the truck running, I swapped in a Weber carb and put an Excel Superstock coil in it. Put a new cap and rotor and put in some new plug wires. Now at the time all I could get were the cheapest plug wires I've ever seen. I think this set was like $9, and it ran fairly well for a while. Shortly after that, I started having hesitation issues under load. I replaced the Excel Superstock coil with an Excel Super coil. Let me tell you, that thing is a monster. It's over 3 pounds and puts out something like 45,000 volts. Now that temporarily fixed the issue. Truck ran like a sewing machine, had power, would rev up. When it started hesitating again, I swapped the plugs out and the truck ran better. Now I was going to throw parts at this. I was going to throw in the new spark plug wires, a new cap, a new rotor. So the new guy insisted on having a poke around. I tried cleaning up the connections on the distributor cap and on the rotor, just to see if it made any difference. By the way, if you notice this spark plug wire missing a boot, that was an attempt at a roadside fix last night. But there was still no spark. Then he started asking about some resistor that comes with these Excel coils. He said it has to be installed in line with the factory ballast resistor, which may explain why I've smoked the last 2 coils I've had. Then he mumbled something about reading the instructions, but I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. So now I am going to start throwing parts at this truck, starting with a cap and rotor, and see if this thing starts barking fire. Although first, I think I'm going to need to ask for some help. Hold on. Let's see, earmuffs, hacksaw, emergency mayonnaise. There it is. Oh, wait. So as it turns out, it was the cap and the rotor that were cock blocking me. Now hear me out. That cap and rotor had maybe 2,500 miles on them, and they should not have worn out that quickly. Since I didn't install the resistor on either one of the Excel coils I've had in this truck, my theory is, without the resistor, the coil's burning out the connections on the cap and the rotor, and probably even breaking down the insulation on the spark plug wires. Now the way the resistor is supposed to work is when you turn the key to start, The coil sends full power to the spark plug wires to help you start a dead cold engine. Then when you back off the key and it goes to the run position, the wiring sends power through the resistor. The resistor knocks down the voltage to a lower level. So over time, with all these parts wearing, it was causing the truck to run badly. Even though I'm getting decent spark out of this coil, I'm going to replace it, put in the resistor that's supposed to go in there, and not have to worry about it later. Since I have a new cap and rotor, I'm going to install some new spark plug wires while I'm at it. Since the air filter was looking a little scungy, I'm going to replace that with a new one as well. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you may remember last summer I was struggling with the brakes. Essentially what would happen is if I'm cruising up to a stop and I need to get on the brakes kind of hard, the truck wants to chug and die. Now, in order to make room for the wheel tubs, when I was bagging and body dropping the truck, Gary ordered a 7-inch booster from Summit Racing. But recently, I had a big aha moment. I noticed that the booster that was installed on the truck is a dual diaphragm booster, whereas stock, this truck only came with a single diaphragm booster. So my theory is, when I'm coming up to a stop in neutral, and I get hard on the brakes, the booster's sucking all the vacuum out of the engine, causing it to chug and die. Now, to fix that problem, I went to Summit and ordered a 7-inch diameter single diaphragm booster. So I'm going to finally swap this baby out and see if that takes care of the problem. Come on, Goldie, you're my only hope. So first things first, I got to get this master cylinder out of the way so I can get the booster out. What do you think, Mr. Wells? Is this going to cure all the braking problems?
But I've been wanting to try it for a while.
I'm also really hopeful I can get this master cylinder just pushed out of the way enough so I don't have to re-bleed these lines. That would suck. Speaking of suck, gotta crawl my ass up underneath this dash to get that master cylinder out and disconnect it from the pedals, and that is not a fun job. Damn. Somebody needs to clean this carpet. Evan!
Enjoy your freedoms.
Now, let's see if I can wrestle that son of a bitch out of there. Oh! Hey! Get out of the way. Yahtzee! Alright, with the two boosters sitting side by side, you can see some distinct differences in them. The obvious thing is the depth. When I researched these on Summit's website, I didn't see that there was that great a difference in the depth. Hopefully that's not an issue. As long as the brake lines make it, I don't really give a damn. All dressed, ready for the party. Let's see if this pig flies. Down through there, down there, up there. Don't scratch the gold. Ah, you bitch. Ah, thank God that's done. Won't know how it really worked till we get a test drive. Now it's New Wheels Day here at Boogie World headquarters, and this is kind of a doozy for me. These are Axis Touring Cups, and I've been in love with them ever since they came out in the early noughties. They were really popular with the import crowd, and they're one of my top 5 wheels of all time. I legit searched for a set of these wheels for about 10 years, finally getting lucky and finding a set that fit the Boogie Shop Truck. Now these wheels are more than 20 years old and they're a little rough. So Jason at Forever Customs stripped and powder coated them and they came out absolutely gorgeous. Now white is the iconic color for touring cups, but silver fits my truck much better. Have no fear, I got a second set in 4-lug, so there's hope of a white set of touring cups. Now the 4-lug wheels came with center caps, but they were missing trim rings and the trim ring nut. I hit the jackpot one day on Center Caps Direct, finding a complete center cap with the trim ring and the trim ring nut. Over the next year I scrounged eBay, found another set of center caps, had custom trim rings made, and found out that I could get blue anodized Yamaha YZ250 axle nuts to fit the center caps perfectly. Now as you might guess, nothing's perfect. The color I chose is a GM silver that you'd find on rally wheels from back in the day. Now Forever Customs nailed the color perfectly. The problem is I chose wrong. The style fits perfectly on the truck, however the wheels are just a little bit too dark. Now that's my fault, I picked the wrong color. I'm still glad I didn't go with white though, by the way. The even bigger problem is my old set of wheels. These are the wheels I started running on the truck. They're from some bullshit company out of Japan called Layered. They're basically a work Euroline rep, but these are actually legitimately from Japan. I bought these on Kruber Up Garage. That is the site to go check out wheels on. Now at the time I picked these wheels up for $150. Shipping was a whole nother story, but don't let that stop you. These wheels fit that truck so well and look so good on it with the blue paint, I'm actually going to go back to these Johns. First, they need a polish. One day I was on a hurry to get to a show, stopped at a coin-op car wash, and then scrubbed the wheels with a bristle brush that was way too aggressive. When I did that, I scratched the dickens out of the faces on these things, and I haven't been able to look at them since. So now let's talk fitment. The Axis Touring Cups are an 18x7 plus 42 offset, while these Layered wheels are an 18x7.5 plus 42 offset. Typically a modern or even front wheel drive car is going to have a positive offset. That means that the surface where the wheel mounts to the car is more toward the front of the wheel, creating more backspace. A negative offset is where the wheel mounting surface is in toward the back of the wheel, creating more front space. For most mini trucks, you're going to find out that a front wheel drive offset wheel is going to be your best bet for tucking. Now, because Pennsylvania is a communist state, I need a horn to pass inspection. And because I'm an asshole, I'm going with an air horn. The horn I chose is an electric unit from Horn Blasters, and it's actually meant for a motorcycle. I didn't really want to take the time to figure out how to make the factory horn button work on my truck, so I just went with a simple push button mounted on the dash. Sorry, I tried to warn you.
Did?
Now with the truck running just for the time being, I'm going to take advantage and start to fine-tune this thing. To help out with tuning the carburetor and dialing in the timing, I'm going to add a vacuum gauge. This was my idea.
I always just have fun with it.
This was the new guy's idea. Supposedly,
I have a lot of old car stereo stuff laying around.
it's a simple way to figure out if the engine's happy with the changes I've made. Picked up this little Bosch unit from the parts store and cobbled together a T that goes in between the intake manifold and the brake booster. A side effect is it might actually give me some information on what's going on when I hit the brakes and the thing wants to die. With the location of that port on the intake manifold right behind the number 4 cylinder, I'm thinking a combination of the carburetor and the brake booster are starving that cylinder for air or maybe even fuel. So how'd we do? It's kind of a mixed bag. Swapped out the cap and rotor and the truck fired right off. I didn't use the choke or pump the gas even once and it just lit right off. It shouldn't have needed that cap and rotor, frankly. And after reading more carefully the Excel instructions, you only need to add that resistor if you have a point style ignition, which I don't have. I've been burning up my anytime minutes talking to the Boogie Chassis engineering department, and we can't figure out what the hell's going wrong. The only thing I can come up with is that hot coil's burning up the stock ignition components and they just can't handle it. So in the meantime, I'm just going to drive it and see what happens. If all else fails, I've got a stock coil sitting on the shelf. So if the truck starts running badly, I'll swap in the stock coil on the stock resistor and see what happens then. And with that vacuum gauge, I'm able to move to the next step of tuning. Up about 4,000 RPM, there's a dead spot in acceleration. The engineering department seems to think that it's jetting. The brakes, however, are a whole different game. It still wants to die when I'm braking in neutral. Can't figure out what's going on there. Now, something you haven't seen is I added a vacuum reservoir. Well, that didn't work either. So now I've got to start looking at the carburetor. I might try turning up the fuel pressure a little bit and checking the float level to make sure that it's not running out of fuel under hard braking. So overall, it went okay. The truck's definitely running better. And frankly, if I have to throw a cap and rotor in it every season, I'm fine with that. So come back next time. I'm going to add a wideband O2 sensor to help tune this carburetor and build a center console for this beast. Thanks for watching. Oh, you dirty bitch. Feel that power. Got a Mazda 6 on my ass. Holy fuck. Wow. Oh. was a rough one.